Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Talk Show powered by Business Talks Weekly. Our guest today is a brand strategist and a digital marketing specialist who has worked with global brands such as PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Unilever, and he is the co-founder of Wunderbrands, Nicholas Kuhne. Nicholas, welcome to the Power Talk Show.
Thank you, Navin. Good to be here.
Thank you. Nicholas, before we dive into your conversation, can you tell us a bit about your professional background and what led to the creation of Wonderbrand?
All right. I hope the show's long enough. Well, as you can hear, I'm a South African, not the crazy type, so not as crazy as Elon Musk, but I started out my career in advertising, and just a quick fact: I was actually on a cricket scholarship in the UK, and I've played one international game for the UAE years and years ago. So that's my claim, my sporting claim to fame. But I started in advertising. I lived in Nigeria for a while, doing market research, the largest market research studies on the youth market in Africa. I then joined a company called Nando's, which does spicy peri peri flame grilled chicken, and I helped launch them in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. So a lot of my expertise has been in those types of emerging markets, and obviously trying to sell spicy chicken to the people who invented spicy chicken. So you can just imagine how tough that was.
Absolutely.
After that, I joined TBWA, which is a large ad agency, and I was working back in Nigeria in the telecoms industry. And then I was called back to Interbrand, which is a large global brand agency, to be the managing director of Interbrand West Africa. And we did lots of interesting work, rebranding airlines, telcos, banks, etc., during a big consolidation period in Nigeria at that period. So that was very exciting. But then at that stage, I decided, wait a minute, I think I can do this just as well as Interbrand. And I felt that they were leaving money on the table because there were a lot of smaller local brands that said, hey, we'd love Interbrand to do some work for us. But as soon as they saw our invoices and saw the prices of work, they said, no, never mind. And I thought that was a pity because I wanted to help build local brands into international brands. And that's how Wunderbrand came about. It doesn't help either that I was fighting with my boss. So it was either him or me. And it was, I decided, no, I had better get a move on. But then Wunderbrand started in South Africa. We had clients in Nigeria, in Malaysia, in Sri Lanka, and all across Africa. And it grew quite steadily, and we helped build some fantastic emerging market brands. I then started my podcast, From Startup to Wunderbrand, similar to you, Navin, to help aspiring entrepreneurs understand marketing strategy and how to take their brand from being hokey pokey to looking international. So that's me.
Thank you so much, Nicholas, for sharing that with us. Nicholas, you have worked with so many brands and you have worked with local brands as well as global brands. What kind of trend shift are you seeing? Are consumers consuming more local brands instead of global brands? What are the numbers that you see?
I think we're finding that global brands still have the step up on everyone else, basically, because in terms of costs, it's much cheaper often to buy international brands than to buy local brands. And we've seen this with the likes of China closing down production in a whole bunch of countries. And now you're only left with imported international goods. So international brands are here to stay. So for the staple products in that, I think we will see international products and brands last well into the future. However, there is more local brand localization. This isn't a new phenomenon. When people were growing up, you'd go to the corner shop, you'd go to the auntie on the corner, you'd go to local restaurants and buy your food there. That's never going to change. The only thing that is changing is that these companies or these little businesses are professionalizing and are starting to take branding quite seriously, because there's the opportunity for them, if they do well in one community, to grow out into other communities. And how do you do that? And that is quite a challenge. But I think more and more local brands are being born and die at the same time. So it's a cycle. It's like venture capitalists. Out of the 10 that they put money into, only one of them makes money. And the same is with local brands. And these big international brands that we see, those are the ones that have made it out of thousands or hundreds of other businesses that were trying to do the same thing. And global brands are making a big move towards localizing their products. Even at Nando's, even at most international brands will localize either due to seasonality or due to local tastes, which makes them kind of local. And I'm sure, I don't know what you're in Dubai, so Pepsi is the number one beverage in Dubai. But in South Africa, it's Coca-Cola. In Nigeria, it's Pepsi. In Pakistan, it's Pepsi. And around the world, there are different brands, and they become localized because they sponsor the cricket, they sponsor schools, they sponsor all sorts of things. So they may be global brands, but they do become part of the local community as well.
That's very interesting, Nicholas, because as you are a brand strategist, what is the key important factor for a local brand to have to become global?
So we've got to go back one step. The brand is the last nice thing that you stick on the business. What's really important is your business strategy. And I was lecturing to a class this morning about business strategy and the alignment with your positioning and your brand. Because if you say, I want to be the number one shoe brand in the world, fantastic idea. But unless you have money for distribution, unless you have billions for marketing, unless you can sponsor football teams, you're not going to be the number one shoe brand. So you've got to set your sights to something that's manageable. You obviously do need to have a North Star that you're aiming at, but typically, unless you've got deep pockets from a brand perspective, you need to have a process of going from 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion. What does that look like? Do you have the support and the structures in place to help you get to those next levels? So for me, it starts with business strategy, and the brand is the outward expression of your business strategy. So it's basically like the clothing, the shell, the packaging around your business to let people know who your product or service. So that's a loaded question, and I've given you a roundabout answer, but it really does start with integrating your business strategy with your brand vision so that you don't set yourself up for failure.
Absolutely makes sense. I have one top up question to that. How difficult is it for a brand for a rebranding of the complete product and their company? Because depending upon the strategy, pivot is essential. And when you pivot a business, you have to rebrand and restructure. How difficult or how challenging is it?
Obviously, that's quite difficult, and that's why people like me have jobs, because it's a complicated process. Brand, as I mentioned, is just the outward appearance typically of a business. If you are going to rebrand an organization, you've actually got to start from the foundations, and the foundations are the staff. So you start with your internal branding, making sure that everybody internally knows what the changes are, what the business is about. It's about telling your suppliers, it's about engaging with the types of suppliers that will represent you well in the market. And I always love rebrands because just take, for example, your business or your show, BTW. You've been going for a couple of years, for example. It's the same logo. You've got the same haircut. You've got the same background. And perhaps you lose some customers along the way because they found something new and shiny and something more exciting. You've got your current loyal customers, which you want to keep motivated. And then there's a whole bunch of new customers who've never heard of you. Rebrand is a very good opportunity to, number one, if you've rebranded and you've got shiny new toys, you can now reach back to those people who you've lost and say, hey, look, here's a reason for you to come back and check us out. For your current customers, it shows that you are a business that is dynamic and moving and growing. And for future customers or potential customers, it's an opportunity for you to say, hey, you've never considered us before. Have a look at this press release. Have a look at this article. You've got a reason to talk versus them just seeing your same old material over and over and not being terribly interested. So I love rebrands because it's why restaurants and beverage brands and that constantly update their look and feel so that they've got a reason to put a poster up and a reason to do a press release and a reason to do an advert. So rebranding has a couple of important reasons for being done. So one is, again, getting past customers to look at you again. And then the other way, as you mentioned, is if the market has changed, if the consumer has changed, then you need to keep with the times. And you can only look at the logo of Pepsi that has changed again. And if you look back over the years, the brand needs to align itself with the new generation of its customers. So always a good idea.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you. Nicholas, what's your take on personal branding? Like, A individual personal branding is the digital era. How important is that?
It's a tough one because a lot of people don't think they've got anything useful to say and don't think that their individual personality is worth branding. And I'd like to tell them you're wrong. You need to really focus on your personal brand. If you are not able to promote yourself, if you don't have a clear story about yourself that you can tell the world, this is either to employers, employees, to potential girlfriends or boyfriends, you're doing a bad job. So we do kind of personal branding every day. But what I find is that folks don't have, imagine Navin, you got to see Elon Musk in the elevator at your offices, and you've got 3 floors, so 30 seconds to say, hey, Elon, my name is Navin. I run the show. You probably have a very clear story that you can tell in 30 seconds to let Elon Musk know who you are and why he should hire you or why he should invest in you. You should think that you're going to be meeting interesting people. And if you don't have your story, you'll be quiet in the lift for all 3 stories, or you'll go, well, I like cheese. And by the time you've done that, he's out of the lift with his bodyguard. So I think from a personal branding perspective, because we are going to have these massive brands, Coca-Cola's, IBM's, and those types, the importance of individual and personal branding is going to get more and more important, because running a business, driving sales, etc., means that people find it easier to deal with individuals than with brands or large companies that are generally faceless or are driven by AI. So it's super important to make sure that you build your personal brand.
I completely agree with you. Nicholas, moving to Wunderbrand, what is your vision? Like in the next 5 years, what are you looking at towards Wunderbrand? Where do you want to grow?
Well, Wunderbrand's an interesting one. I started out trying to build emerging market brands, and it was a great idea because emerging markets need emerging brands. But my only problem is that they didn't have money and they didn't think it was as important as I thought it was. So the business had to pivot slightly. We do a lot of sustainability communications for banks and organizations like that who want to make sure that the activities that they're doing for their corporate social responsibility, they're driving awareness of the Millennium Development Goals or SDGs now, Sustainability Development Goals, are driven throughout the organization and that their customers know about it. So I really enjoy that. We have luxury clients in Switzerland. We have a variety of interesting social media clients. So we do a lot of content creation. And as a brand agency, we make sure that it is consistent and that your brand voice, your message is very consistent across a variety of channels. But I do see myself doing, because personal branding is becoming more important, because companies are being driven by individual personalities versus a brand, a logo. I'm sort of doing more talks for individual entrepreneurs like yourself to say, okay, how do we build up your brand? How do we build an organization that can grow beyond you as well? So that's where I think Wunderbrand is going. And honestly, I love talking to other interesting entrepreneurs and folks who've done exciting things in marketing. So that's where the Wunderbrand podcast is growing nicely. And we've just hit 650,000 downloads from November last year. It's going nicely. So I'd encourage your listeners also to go and check that out.
It's wonderful. And, looking at how the industry is evolving and everybody is using AI and all these generative tools, what's your take? How do you see content creators growing in the future?
I don't know if you've seen the latest release from Canva, because they've added a whole bunch of fantastic new features that we've had to sort of work around in the past to try and get what they've just launched now. And what it's going to do is allow individuals like ourselves to create as much content as we want, as quickly as we want. And it means that the delivery of just content is going to be, it's just getting bigger and bigger. So what we really need to do in terms of a content perspective is improve the quality. So AI can take an original idea that we've got and expand it and break it into pieces and make little bits of content. But everyone can do that. So what you need to do is something called creative AI. So you've got to be able to level up your creativity so that AI actually has a bit of a challenge and can create content or help you develop content that is really going to engage with your audience. I love AI. I think it allows you to, especially creative AI, it really allows you to come up with concepts much cheaper, much quicker than ever before, and allow you to do things that you've always dreamt of doing, but have never been able to do. And what that means is that there are a lot of people with no ideas and no thoughts going on in their head. So AI is going to be absolutely useless to them because they're going to say, do a dog on a ball. Anyone can do that. So our job as creative folks and people in branding and marketing is to stretch the limits of AI and to add additional bits of data, our understanding of consumers, our understanding of behavioral science, etc. And when you bring that all together with these AI products, you can create something exceptional. So I'm very positive about it.
One final question, Nicholas. What has been your learning so far?
Don't sign photocopier contracts. Signing contracts are very easy. So just from an entrepreneurial perspective, and I had some real issues with the business a couple of years ago, and signing contracts for leases, signing contracts for laptops and workstations and mobile phones and photocopier machines. Oh man, it's so easy. They make it fantastically easy for you. But the moment you need to get rid of it, or the moment there's a downturn, there's no ways you can get out of them. I think as any starting entrepreneurs, don't sign anything. Pay month to month until you can afford it, or unless you've got guaranteed income for the foreseeable future. So that would be my little tidbit that would have saved me. I have very little hair now, as you can see. So that would have kept some more of the hair on my head if I'd have had that advice earlier.
Absolutely. And that's very helpful and that's very insightful as well. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Navin. Have a great day.